China has no religious freedom. The government severely oppress and restrict worshippers and persecute individuals who are simply trying to live out their faith. Those are the words spoken by the American ambassador to China and Senator Marco Rubio just a few days ago. Now, it sparked a huge issue online, and as someone who has lived in China for almost 3 years now and visited numerous religious sites in those years, I want to share my experiences and observations to shed some light on the topic and to counter some of the anti China bias being spun up by officials and diplomats who really should know better. Now, it's key when discussing this topic to understand the religious space in China from a historical context. Whereas the Western world has been rooted in a battle between Christianity and Islam, and to some extent Judaism, since the modern calendar began, China existed outside of that bubble. China instead is rooted in Buddhism, Taoism, and Confucianism, and has therefore, as a country, been less exposed to Islam and Christianity, and perhaps then has less of a need or an audience for these religions. Despite that, those religions are given a place to exist in modern day China, no matter what Western ambassadors or senators may claim. So, first and foremost, China is home to one of the world's largest and most diverse religious landscapes. So many religions exist here and are practiced within the country. Religions like the aforementioned Buddhism, Taoism, but even Islam and Christianity, along with traditional folk religions, are all to be found right here, right out in the open. They're not tucked away in some secret hiding places. You literally walk down the street and bam, there they are. In fact, on countless occasions, I myself have been walking down the street and have come face to face unexpectedly with a place of worship, like a church or a cathedral. This happened just the other day, actually, as I was visiting a so called ghost town built and modelled after London on the outskirts of Shanghai. Now, the centerpiece of that town was this beautiful church, and outside of the church, there were maybe 50 people all praying. Full video on that coming very soon, by the way. Now, statistics from a quick online search show that there are over 20,000 Buddhist temples, 35,000 Taoist temples, 45,000 mosques, and 6,000 Catholic churches. In fact, the number of religious sites is actually increasing year on year, with the amount of churches growing by over 10% in the last decade alone. Now, let's take America for comparison. Now, bear in mind that the country is a lot more ethnically and culturally diverse. The country only has 2,700 mosques, despite almost, well, over 1 in 100 people being Muslim. This significant presence of religious infrastructure, of course, challenges the notion that religious practice is severely restricted, as accused by the ambassador on Twitter the other day. If religion was as oppressed as they say in this country, then surely these sites would not exist and would not be growing. Furthermore, during my time so far in China, I've been here a few years, but I'm still working out the country bit by bit. I have visited many temples and churches. Now, these visits were admittedly at first mainly tourist excursions, but they did indeed turn into immersive experiences where I personally interacted with local communities and people visiting those religious sites. At these sites, I have witnessed first-hand congregations openly practicing their faith without fear of oppression or persecution. These are things that you can tell and see and feel by visiting these places. In fact, the claim that religious freedom in China doesn't exist is a bit bizarre because it's literally guaranteed within Chinese law. The Chinese constitution guarantees religious freedom. The government recognizes official religions and protects lawful religious activities through various regulations. When I visited St. Ignatius Church in Shanghai last summer, I got there just before the service was about to start. I witnessed a diverse range of people heading inside, numbered within the hundreds, local Chinese and foreigners alike. In fact, I also went inside with no issue whatsoever. Just went through the doors, explored, had a little walk around. There was no oppression to be found. And even outside the doors was a police presence, there to guarantee the safety of worshippers and people wishing to come and congregate without fear of violence or persecution by perhaps those of opposing religions. Contrast this with what tragically happened in Australia just days ago, whereby an Islamic terrorist entered a church and attacked the priest before turning on the Christians who were peacefully there to pray. Or contrast this with India, where religious attacks are documented in the news as happening pretty much every day, all the time, sadly. Or indeed, you could contrast this with instances in the West, where religious attacks tend to happen frequently. So frequently, in fact, that they are unfortunately very quickly forgotten. While it is indeed true that no country can claim perfect religious freedom, the situation in China is far from the extreme portrayal of oppression given by the American ambassador and senator publicly the other day. In fact, I would go so far as to say that I would personally feel safer practicing my religion here in China than perhaps in most countries around the world. And whilst people are so concerned about religious freedom in China, perhaps other countries should also be scrutinized. For example, why aren't countries who are practicing real religious suppression ever called out by these same ambassadors and senators? Churches and mosques are being burnt down across Europe. In fact, in some countries, some religions are banned completely, and even showing signs of that religion can land you in jail or worse. But it seems that because those countries are either allied to the West or are not seen as a threat to Western dominance of the global geopolitical landscape, it isn't worth talking about. It is only China, because they are perceived as a threat to the West's self appointed place as the global leader, that they are criticised. What do you think? Looking at the data of the number of religious sites that exist in China, reading all of the evidence set forth for whether religious freedom exists here or not, and bearing in mind the instances of religious persecution happening all around the world, does China fall into the category of a country where it is unsafe to practice your religion? Or is there indeed religious freedom in China? I would be very interested in hearing about your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video and found it informative, please like, share, and subscribe for more insights within China, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye for now.